Really, I'll let you dig it out.
Yeah, but the frame is sitting on top of his head.
I can move the moose handler.
Okay. Well, you know what? I think this angle would be nice too. If I slide this chair, can you slide that chair
Yeah,
over?
he's a little bit. Cyr, come forward in the chair a little bit.
Okay.
Push your butt up. There you go. Good. Yeah, you were lean. That chair is like that. It leans back.
Yeah. Well.
You like it lean back? How are you comfortable lean back?
No. Yeah. Not all that uncomfortable. No, it's not uncomfortable.
That's a well-worn chair.
They're crying now.
Say, you know. Yeah.
I'm filming you.
Yeah.
When did you leave Rumford?
1932. I joined the Army. I went to Vermont. I was originally I had thought of going to Hawaiian Islands to. Well, I can't remember the name of the fort out there, but I had friends out in Hawaii, and I was going to go join them, but there was no openings that particular month. And when I asked him where there were openings, he says, well, we got a couple of openings in Vermont in a field artillery or the cavalry, and I liked horses, so I says, I'll take the cavalry. And that's where I landed for 3 years.
Now, where was that?
In Vermont, Fort Ethan Allen, Vermont, not too far from Burlington.
And what did you do on the horses?
Oh, we trained the old-fashioned way, sabers, but the cavalry was really begin to be phased out. So by the time I'd spent my 3 years in cavalry, they were beginning to phase. They really phased it out right after I got out.
So there were no more horses?
There was, there was. Oh, when I left there, they still had 2 barnfuls of horses. Each barn held about 100 horses apiece, and the field artillery had bigger horses, and they lived. They were a separate unit from the cavalry.
What did they do after the horses? Did they stop the cavalry?
They mechanized. They got rid of the horses, and they started to go to trucks and tanks, and such as they are today.
And then what did they call it?
The mechanized cavalry. Still do, I think.
And what year was that?
Well, I would say that they phased it out of from Fort Ethan Allen. I would say that probably in 1937, 38.
Please stop jumping on that because it's bouncing the camera.
Got discharged in 36. And I would say that they really phased out the cavalry, got rid of the horses, and probably went to tanks and weapons carriers, trucks and the likes after that. Underhill, Vermont.
Did the cavalry move around?
Yes, we used to go. This used to be our camping area. We used to go out on maneuvers up there. And you can see we used to set up our tents there and stay at Underhill. There was a farm not too far from there. And after we get through our day's training, we used to go to that farm, and the lady would sell us a strawberry shortcake, great big piece of strawberry shortcake for 25 cents. So, needless to say, she had a line of soldiers there practically every night.
For the strawberry shortcake?
You still? I thought you was gone with the kids. Yeah.
No, Daddy took them.
Yeah. So that's That's the tents, the pyramid tents that we used to have pup tents, but that we carried on our packs on the horses. But these tents were what did they call those? Pyramid type tents, and they slept 6. So that's where we stayed. This was taken. I can't read that, but
it says Fort Ethan Allen in August 1934.
In 34, yeah. That. Did you have another one?
Okay.
Yeah. See, this is the kitchen, and all the men in line to have their dinner or breakfast, whatever it might have been. This was also taken in Underhill in Vermont, at Underhill.
And what did they usually cook you for food?
Oh, we had good food. That is, you know what it cost us at the time? 32 cents a day. It would feed a soldier a real good diet. And we have pork chops, beef, and bacon and eggs. We had a good diet. Well, I had a hat on. I wish I could point it out to you. I readily show it to you, but I can't pick it out anymore. But I remember those pictures being taken, and I've had them hanging around for many years. And there's a two-holer there that you use to go to the toilet.
What does a two-holer mean?
2 holes cut in the board and set over a hole, and you use it as a toilet. It was usually 2 holers. And I can't remember ever seeing any more than 2. Yes, I did. In the Army, when we were on the firing line, they used to have a number of holes. We'd get off the firing line and had to go to the toilet. There we went. It was a tent and probably a 6-holer.
What's a firing line?
Well, where we learned to shoot the rifle.
Oh, okay.
This was out in the country, so there was no facilities to go to the toilet, and they had to provide a place for the men to go to the toilet. So they dug trenches there and built a 2-holer or a 3-holer or whatever over the hole.
And how did they just then move it and fill it with dirt, or did they have to?
That's correct. Yeah. After you use it, after the shooting season had ended, they would bury that, and the next year, when they'd use another area.
Did it get smelly in the summer?
It was pretty terrible in the summer. They'd stop for lunch and have lunch, and then we'd have to go to the toilet, and we'd have to use those 2 holers. But they did the best they could with. They put chemicals there to try to kill the smell, but the sun was hot, and it was hot, and it wasn't a very pleasant place to be. In camp, when we was at Underhill there, we had the same facility. Outdoor, dig a trench, put a tent over it, and build the facility to sit down and go to the toilet.
And how did they do the cooking?
They had special stoves that they carried with them. We used to, while I was in the cavalry, they used to send a wagon with a four mule team with all the kitchen supplies. And they'd start off, they'd feed you your breakfast, then they'd pack up everything and take off and go to our next destination, which was probably 20 miles away. and they'd get there and they'd set up the kitchen again, a tent, and portable stoves, and they did a pretty good job of cooking.
How often did you move with the cavalry?
How often
How often did you have to move to different camps?
This was just maneuvers during the summertime that we moved from one area to the next. When we was at 40th and Allen, we stayed put. We had permanent buildings, and permanent barracks, and permanent stables for the horses. But in the summertime, when we went out on maneuvers, we'd move from one area to the next. I can remember going from Lake Champlain, New York. We piled all our horses onto a ferry. We rode out to Champlain and took the ferry there and crossed over into New York. And we went to Camp Drum there in New York, upstate New York, and maneuvered there. And then came back 2-3 weeks later, took the same ferry back into Vermont and back to 40th and Allen.
What were the maneuvers?
That's what I mean. Maneuvers was tactics of war, how to go about to defeat your enemy. Horse cavalry was really behind the times, but they, like I say, they were big. Not while I was there. The only thing that modernized that while I was still in there was that they bought a brand new Ford truck, panel truck for the kitchen. It would facilitate the kitchen moving from one area to maneuvers, to another, and prepare when we get to in camp that night. Our supper would all be prepared. We took care of our horses, rubbed them down, took the saddle bridle off, put them on the picket line, and fed them a portion of grain and hay, and then we went to eat. We never ate until our horses were rubbed down, and we rubbed their legs down. They'd been ridden for 25, 30 miles that day, so they were hot on horse. And then we'd rub their backs and brush them down, and so they'd be nice and clean. Then we'd water them, feed them, and then we'd go and wash up ourselves if we weren't too tired. And sometimes we didn't wash, but we went and had our supper anyway.
Now the kitchen people, you said they originally took a wagon?
Yeah, with four mule or 4 horses usually. And they had all the kitchen utensils in there. And they had to travel before. Sometimes they got to camp after we got there. And we had to wait for supper. But once we got that Ford truck, they had everything arranged, that the stove, the portable stoves that they had, and pots and pans, they'd pile it onto that truck, and they would be to our next maneuvers, our next camping area, long before we were, and they could prepare a good meal.
Was that the first mechanical thing they got for the cavalry?
Yes, that I can remember, was that truck. After that, I can't tell you just exactly when they started making a bigger move, but they did phase them out right after that. Because there was a period of, from the time I got out till 1941, when I went back in, World War II, that's the time that they really modernized the cavalry.
And did they have running water at your barracks at Fort Ethan Allen?
Oh yeah, oh yes, we had all the facilities, nice toilets. Yeah, we had good barracks there, nice brick barracks with a great front veranda, porch, and it was quite. Now I think they've turned it into old people's homes and different. They've has nothing more to do with the Army. I guess the Army turned that over to the Essex Junction, or where we were closest town, and they modernized it and made home. There was a lot of homes there for officers, but we had big barracks.
And what did you do in 41?
I went in the Army. They called me back in.
Where did you go with that?
I went to Fort Belvoir, Virginia, as in the engineers. And when I got there, while I was in the cavalry, I had been made corporal. So I kept my same rank when I went into Fort Belvoir. And then I made platoon sergeant, and they kept me in Fort Belvoir, Virginia, training men. And I was there for roughly three years and some odd, and just training one group after another, and sending them overseas to various places. And after I'd been there for that length of time, they decided that they had better send me. They sent me to China.
Where in China?
Well, I went to Shanghai, but I was on the Kunming. I was on the Vietnamese border, Kunming, China, and I was there for a year, also training men and doing engineer type work. I was in charge of a water filtration plant. Well, I erected it and operated it for the, I had half a dozen men, and we operated that water filtration plant in Kunming till the atomic bomb was dropped. And then they sent me to Shanghai. I flew from Kunming to Shanghai, and from Shanghai into Seattle, Washington, and home.
Why did they have you filtering water?
So we have drinking water. We not only filtered it, but we mixed it with chlorine through pumps and various machinery. And we distributed it to various campsites. We had 2-3 trucks, which was under my jurisdiction, and we'd send. They had their routes, and they delivered their water, and I just stayed at the plant with a couple of men and operated. We had a brook running down there, and we took the water from the brook, filtered it, mixed it with chlorine, then sent it out to be, and it wasn't fit to be drank in that manner. We always warned them that they still had to boil it.
So, were there people living in that place where you were filtering
Kunming?
the water?
Yes. Yes, there was a little, Kunming was, Gunheitsa.
Were they drinking the
Yeah,
water?
Kunming was a pretty good, fair-sized city on not too far from Vietnam. But where I live, in the campsite that I live, it was all mud brick housing. But they were fairly decent barracks. And we lived there, and we did we had a main dining area. We went down to the dining area to eat, and we had to cross this little town of Gunheitsa. Our campsite was here, Gunheitsa was here, and our kitchen facilities, why they did it that way, was on the other side of Gunheitzer. And we'd walk through this little town every morning on our way to breakfast.
What was it like?
Well, it was quite something. Pigs running around, little babies with a little slit in the back of their trousers, so they could squat you'd see their little butt in that slit, and they squatted wherever they happened to need to go to the toilet. They just squat there and went to the toilet. I'm talking about little shahaitzes, little kids then. And we'd cross this little village and go eat, then go back and do our day's work.
Where did the grown-ups in that country go to the bathroom? Where did the grown-ups go to the bathroom?
That is another thing. They used to, any place they could. In the morning, you see peasants with two baskets, one on either end of the pole. And they'd carry that around, and they'd come to night fertilizer, they called it. Somebody had done their duty during the night. They scooped that up, and they'd put that in their basket and use that in their garden.
And where did they drink water from?
The same source we did, only it wasn't filtered. They went up the line a little ways from where we were, from where the plant was, and they took their water from there.
Did it make them sick?
Apparently not, but I don't understand why, because it was yellow and brackish, and it didn't look too appetizing. They used to wash their trucks there. We used to have to squabble with them all of the time about washing their truck above the filtration plant. They should have taken it, we should have put the plant up beyond, above their truck washing area. But it didn't always work out the way we wanted to.
Do you remember your trip from Virginia to China?
Oh yes, very well. I went to Seattle, Washington, California, San Francisco by plane.
Okay.
And then I went to Sacramento and to Marysville, and there was a Camp Beale up there, and we stayed there. We was going to stay there for a month. So when I discovered that we was going to stay there for a month, I told my wife at the time, I called her up. I says, why don't you give up your job and come with me? Come out to Marysville. 2-3 other sergeants had done that. So she ditched her job, got a plane, and it took her about 4 days from Portland to Sacramento. And I went and picked her up in Sacramento. I met her in Sacramento. And we was there and went from Sacramento to Camp Beale. Then we hired a nice room that the natives provided for a fee, of course, like a motel. And we had a really nice place. This was in Riverside. And we stayed in Riverside.
In Washington State?
No, in California.
Okay.
And we stayed in Riverside there for, a month. And then the time came when we really had to get on a boat and leave. So she and Mary Green, which we are still friendly with, I am, they just sent me a card and a letter. And she and Mary Green worked their way back to Chicago. Then Gladys took a train from Chicago back to Maine.
So when she came from Portland, did she come by train?
Yes, yes.
When you went from California, how did you travel to China?
We went to San Diego from Riverside. We was all packed and ready to go, and we took a ship, the U.S. Escaped my mind, but it was a brand new ship, and we traveled alone. Usually ships travel in packs, in convoys, but this was a brand new ship, a little faster and more modern. So we was all non-commissioned officers and commissioned officers on that. There was 5,000 of us on that ship.
What does non-commissioned mean?
Pardon?
What does non-commissioned
That means that you're not an officer. You're an officer, but non-commissioned. When you get out of West Point, they say, I commission you a lieutenant so-and-so, then you become a commissioned officer. You're a captain, lieutenant, you're a lieutenant, captain, major, colonel, general, whatever. But as a non-commissioned officer, you're a corporal, sergeant, first sergeant, first class, etc.
So do you have to go to school like a West Point to be commissioned?
That's correct, yeah.
Where if you just went to the military and you go up in rank, then you're non-commissioned?
Yes, if you, some of us had chances to go to a 3-month, OCS they called it, Officers Training School.
Yeah.
And some of us chose not to go, some of them did. And, but on this ship, we went to Australia first.
What was that like?
We was just there. We weren't allowed off the ship, but we were able to. We was in. Now, the port escapes me right now, but we stopped in Australia. We crossed the date line, by the way. And if you had the date line is from one day to the next. And they used to initiate you. If you hadn't crossed it before, they'd initiate you or do different foolish things. And that was quite fun, but it was extremely hot on the way. And I wasn't a good sailor. But the first few days of the trip, I was sick as a dog. But then I got on my feet. But there's some that was sick from the time they embarked till the time they got off. They were sick, seasick. And we went from Australia to Calcutta, to Bombay, India. And from Bombay to Calcutta. And we got off at Calcutta, and I think it was New Year's Eve. We'd been on the ocean for over a month, from San Diego to Australia to Bombay and Calcutta. And we stayed at a campsite there outside of, what was the name of that campsite? Camp Chapera. And we stayed there waiting for transportation to go into China. And we was waiting for planes to go over the Himalayas. We stayed there a couple of weeks.
What was that like?
Well, we had time to rest, and it was pretty good. We went back to, we used to go to Bombay at night. They'd provide a truck, and we'd go there, and we rode through these little towns, and they smelled awful going through these towns. And come to find out, they used to take cow dung and mix it with straw and make patties out of it and stick it on the side of the house. And the sun would dry it out. And that's what they use as fuel. They'd burn that. It would burn readily. After it had dried out, the sun is extremely hot. And like I say, they cut up straw and took cow dung and made patties out of it, stuck it on the wall. You'd see the houses all, well, they were mud houses, mud brick houses, and they're all full of that fuel. And at night, you'd see them, they'd have little charcoal burners, and they'd feed that fuel into it and cook their supper. And as we rode through these little towns, the stench was wicked. And we used to go visit in Bombay, and we'd stay probably till 9, 10 o'clock, have a few beers, and look, just as tourists, go back to camp, and we entertain ourselves like that for a couple of weeks while we stay there. Then we took a plane over the Himalayas overnight into China, and that's the way there was no method of going in there without they take a plane load after plane load of us soldiers, fly us over the Himalayas, and which was quite a feat in those days because they're extremely high, and a lot of planes went down. And they landed near Kunming there, and brought us to Shanghai.
And then where did you go from there?
After a year was up, the war was finished, I went to Shanghai, and that was high-class living there. The army had taken over French quarters. There was no furniture, but those apartment houses, this is the first time I ever saw nice colored, I've never seen it in the United States, colored toilet facilities, toilets, and sinks, and bathtubs, and showers. And they had all of this.
You mean colored, not white?
Some of them were white, but all I'd ever seen was white stuff. But over there, they had the latest.
The what? The latest?
Yeah, the latest of everything.
Yeah.
But we took over those buildings to quarter the army, and I was there a month in Shanghai, waiting for a ship to go to come back home.
What was that like?
That was high-class living. We used to get per diem. They'd give us, I think, $15 a day, each soldier. And we'd go and eat wherever we wanted to, at Chinese restaurants or mostly Chinese restaurants. And we could save a little money because the food was cheap and good.
Back in the States, you were making, what, $16 or $19 a week?
Back in the States then, I'd lost all track. This was in 1944, 45.
Yeah.
And I'd lost track of but before I'd gone, I was making $25 a week. One week I'd make 32 because I worked overtime. I worked Saturday, which they considered overtime, but it was for my benefit. I'd work that Saturday so that I'd come back home a day sooner and have a day extra at home. So I got a day. I used to get $32 a week that week and $25 the next.
And when you were in Shanghai, what did you do?
Nothing really. We just ogled the girls and just we visited. We were like tourists. We had right in the middle of Shanghai. This other sergeant and myself was walking down, and we saw an English sign, a Japanese sign, and there they had a whole beautiful cattle, and that they right in the middle of Shanghai, mind you, and those cows never went out of the barn, and they were big, beautiful cows. I'd never seen anything quite like it in the States, but those cows never went out. They were fed in the barn, they were milked in the barn, and they went out once a day with their Chinese handler, walking around for exercise. Then they were brought back in, then they went out to pasture, but that was their milk supply. That they produced milk there.
What were the buildings like?
The buildings? A long shed. You mean where the cattle were?
No, in the whole city.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
How tall was the tallest building?
It didn't go, but they had some really handsome looking buildings at the time.
Did they have Thai buildings?
Oh, yes. Yes, I think that this French apartment building where we were, and there was also, we lived in a French community. There was also a Russian community where the Russians stayed, international village, in other words, and they tended to stick to their own, you know, the English in one area, the French in another, Italians in another. It was quite an arrangement.
Who had the tallest building?
I wouldn't know.
Did they? I mean, what?
But where we were, see, we went to a hotel for a drink one time, right in the middle of the city, practically, and there was a big racetrack there, and they had fine horses from Japan. The Japanese, by the way, were still there, but they were unarmed. Before we got there, they'd been disarmed.
Do you remember when the bomb was dropped?
Oh, in August sometimes.
Do you remember how you heard about it?
Yes. They said Truman dropped the atomic weapon. We knew that this was due to come. And he dropped it on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that was the end of within days. I think Hiroshima was the first, and then Nagasaki, and they killed 90,000 in Hiroshima alone.
How many people were killed in the war, do you know?
In the American, on the American side, I would say about 250,000. I wouldn't be too far wrong. Not counting this is killed. There's people that were crippled and incapacitated. I don't know how many, but about 250,000. That's pretty close.
And what were the roads paved in Shanghai?
Oh, yeah, I guess. Yeah, they had rickshaws there and taxis, and fortunately, we had a Jeep. And this sergeant that I bunked with came back one day, and he says, boy, I'd like to be going home on the ship that's in the harbor now. I says, what is it? And he told me the name of a ship, the St. Paul, USS St. Paul. I said, Jesus, I said, my nephew is on that ship. And we jumped in a Jeep and went down to the dock, and we says, is Nordell Guinan on this ship? And the officer of the day there says, yes, we have a Nordell Guinan. Would you get him? And they went after Nordell, and there was his dad. And his father. And we said, can he come out tonight? Can he come out this afternoon with us? Sure. So Nordell went back and changed up, and we took him out for supper. And just a few days after that, my own ship, the one that I came home on, came in, the USS Arcturus. It was not a very nice ship, but it got us home. And we could only have 2 meals a day on it, but which was more than sufficient. They didn't have facilities for to feed as many, so but we was all in a hurry. We landed. I'll never forget. I got up in the morning. I says, "Where are we?" Well, we're pretty close to the Puget Sound, they said.
Wow.
And did you ever go there?
Yeah.
And sure enough, we come down the Puget Sound, chug, 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 chug. It was the most beautiful sight I ever saw. It was just at daybreak, and there was housing on both sides of the sound there. And we come down, I felt pretty good about coming down there. And we stayed in Seattle there, for probably a couple of weeks. But the first night, I got to tell you this. We went to a restaurant, this other sergeant and myself, and we ordered a steak, and we says, bring us each a quart of milk. And they brought us a quart of milk. We had a real desire for milk. I did. And so this other guy, which is unusual because usually we're supposed to be drinkers of hard liquor, but I wanted milk. We ate our steak and drank our quart of milk, and the girl come over and said, anything else? No. How much is it? She said, that gentleman at the end of the bar paid for everything. We looked over there, and that fellow says, an elderly man, and he'd seen us eating away then, and figured, you see us with 2 quarts of milk on the table. He says, those guys must be, well, it was a known port for incoming soldiers, and he paid for our meal. So I thought that was quite nice.
Do you remember when Nordell first saw you? Was Nordell surprised to see you in Shanghai?
Yeah, of course. I guess he must have been as surprised as we were. But they had come in there to refuel. His ship was not a destroyer, a cruiser. And they'd been, I think that they'd been in, I don't know if they'd been in battle but they came into Shanghai. And fortunately, this other sergeant says, I'd like to be going home on that ship. I said, boy, that's my nephew's on that. I knew a little of my sister had written me, he was on the St. Paul. And we had a day's visit. We rode rickshaws all over town, all over Shanghai. Then we brought him back, and I guess we shipped out just a few days after.
How old was he then?
Oh, he must have been 18, 19. He had joined before his, I guess he was about 17. and he stayed in for a while. He must have been 18, 19 years old, but he looked like a youngster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, did you have children before you went?
No.
No.
No, I didn't. When I came back home, we produced one son, Douglas Cyr, today.
And with that,
You going to bed, dear? No. So you're just giving me a bonus. Yeah, that's all. Oh, let me smell you, dear.
one more bonus. Give him a kiss.
Oh, I can smell you. Yeah, she smells good. Can I have a kiss? Ah,
Give Uncle Cyr a kiss.
yeah,
Give him a kiss.
yeah.
Give me a kiss.
No kiss. A hug. Ah, okay, a hug. Yeah.